Hello, and welcome to the Deep Space Relax channel. Tonight's journey leads us inward into the vast and mysterious world inside your own mind. We'll explore some of the most fascinating and surprising truths that psychology has uncovered. Secrets of memory, perception, and the quiet patterns that shape our thoughts. Some of what we'll discover will feel gentle, like how a familiar scent can bring back a moment from decades ago. Others will feel astonishing, like the way your brain can make decisions before you're even aware of it. Yet each one will open a window into the hidden workings of the mind, stranger, deeper, and more beautiful than we often imagine. This evening, we'll drift through a collection of remarkable insights and mental curiosities, glimpses into worlds where time can stretch and shrink, emotions can change what we see, and thoughts can ripple between people without a single word. You may find yourself slowly drifting towards sleep, or simply letting these ideas move quietly in the background. If you enjoy these videos and would like to join us for more nighttime explorations, you can like and subscribe below, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. But for now, all you need to do is get comfortable, let your breathing slow, your mind soften, and allow the wonder of your own mind to wash gently over you. Let's begin. People tend to be more honest late at night. As the day goes on, mental filters and social masks can begin to loosen. Late at night, when fatigue lowers inhibition and self-monitoring, people may speak more openly and reveal thoughts they would usually guard during the daytime. This doesn't mean every nighttime conversation is pure, unfiltered truth, but reduced cognitive control can make honesty come more easily. Psychologists also suggest that the quiet, intimate atmosphere of night can encourage openness, fewer distractions, dimmer light, and the feeling that the world is at rest. During these hours, conversations often drift into more personal territory, sometimes deepening connections. The phenomenon isn't universal, but many people recognize the feeling. Words flowing more freely under the cover of night, as if the mind relaxes into its natural rhythm and guarded thoughts finally step into the open. Multitasking makes your memory less reliable. While it may feel efficient, juggling multiple tasks at once can weaken how well we remember them. The brain's attention system works best when it is focused, and dividing that focus forces information to compete for mental resources. This can lead to memories that are less detailed or even partially missing. For example, checking messages while listening to a friend can result in forgetting key parts of the conversation. Studies show that frequent multitaskers may also struggle to filter out irrelevant information, making concentration more difficult over time. The appeal of multitasking lies in its sense of productivity, but the mind records life more richly when it's allowed to stay with one thing at a time. In a world that demands constant switching, choosing to do one thing slowly can feel like a luxury, and one your memory will quietly thank you for. Touch from another person can reduce pain. The warmth of a hand on your shoulder or someone holding your hand can do more than comfort. It can change how your brain processes pain. Physical touch activates sensory pathways that compete with pain signals, lowering their intensity. It also triggers the release of oxytocin, a hormone connected to bonding and stress reduction. In one study, couples who held hands during a painful experience not only reported less discomfort, but their brain waves began to synchronize. This suggests that touch doesn't only soothe emotionally, it can create a shared physiological state that eases suffering. In moments of distress, a gentle touch can act as both a shield and an anchor, reminding the body that it is not alone. Sometimes, the simplest gestures carry the deepest healing power. Scent can influence decision-making without awareness. Smells often bypass conscious thought, traveling directly to brain regions involved in emotion and memory. This direct pathway means scent can affect mood and behavior without us realizing it. In experiments, pleasant ambient scents in stores have been shown to increase the likelihood of purchases, while the smell of cleaning products can lead people to tidy up more. These subtle effects work because scent can prime certain thoughts or associations. Lavender may encourage calm. Citrus may signal freshness and energy. While we often believe our decisions are purely rational, the truth is that invisible sensory cues can quietly tip the scales. Becoming aware of this influence can be empowering, helping us recognize when our choices are guided by the subtle language of scent. Placebo sleep can make you feel more rested. In an interesting twist of psychology, simply believing you've slept well can improve mood and performance the next day, even if you haven't. In one study, participants who were told they had above-average sleep quality performed better on cognitive tests, regardless of their actual sleep. This effect, known as placebo sleep, shows how expectation can shape mental and physical states. The brain uses belief as a shortcut, adjusting energy levels and focus based on perceived rest. Of course, real sleep is essential for health, but this phenomenon reveals the mind's surprising ability to influence how the body feels. It suggests that part of feeling rested comes not only from hours of sleep, but from the story we tell ourselves about that rest. Your mind can sense when someone is staring at you. Many people have experienced the strange feeling of being watched, only to turn and find it's true. While science hasn't fully explained this, some research suggests that subtle cues may alert us unconsciously. A shift in shadows, changes in peripheral vision, or even faint sounds. The brain is finely tuned to detect social attention, since knowing when eyes are on us has been important throughout human history. Evolutionary psychologists suggest this sensitivity helped our ancestors avoid predators and manage complex social situations. Whether through subtle perception or deeper instinct, the sensation can be compelling, prompting action before conscious thought catches up. A quiet nudge from our more ancient selves. Body language can reveal feelings you haven't admitted to yourself. Posture, gestures, and micro-expressions often expose emotions we haven't consciously recognized. For example, crossed arms may signal defensiveness, while subtle changes in tone can suggest discomfort or unease. Psychologists note that these signals are sometimes visible to others before they become clear to us, offering an external reflection of our internal state. Becoming aware of your own body language can uncover hidden stress, attraction, or excitement. In the same way, learning to read nonverbal cues in others can deepen empathy and understanding. This silent language runs alongside speech and often communicates more honestly than words. In moments of self-reflection, noticing how your body positions itself can feel like overhearing your mind's unspoken thoughts. Smells can unlock memories buried for a lifetime. The human sense of smell is deeply wired into the brain's memory systems. Unlike sight or sound, scent bypasses much of the brain's usual processing routes and connects directly to the limbic system, the center of emotion and long-term memory. This is why a faint trace of perfume, fresh rain on pavement, or a familiar childhood meal can feel like a time machine. These scent-triggered memories are often vivid, detailed, and emotional, even when they reach back decades. Psychologists call this the Proust effect, named after the author who described tasting a madeleine and being swept back into childhood. These moments remind us that our minds are not simple filing cabinets. They are living landscapes, and senses act like keys that unlock hidden doors, allowing forgotten feelings to quietly return to the present. Lucid dreaming allows you to control the dream world. In lucid dreams, you become aware that you are dreaming, and with that awareness, you may be able to shape the dream itself. People who experience lucid dreams describe flying over mountains, breathing underwater, or rewriting events as they unfold. Psychologists believe lucid dreaming occurs when parts of the brain responsible for self-awareness remain active during sleep. For some, these dreams happen naturally. Others learn to induce them through techniques like reality checks or keeping dream journals. Research even suggests that skills practiced in lucid dreams can carry over into waking life. Beyond practical benefits, lucid dreaming offers something deeper. It reveals that the mind can create entire worlds filled with detail and emotion, worlds we can move through as if they were real. In those worlds, we are both the traveler and the architect. People remember unfinished tasks better than completed ones. Imagine stepping away from a project before it's finished and finding it lingering in your thoughts. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains tend to hold on to incomplete tasks more vividly than finished ones. This mental open loop likely evolved to help us remember what still needs attention. However, it can also keep us awake at night, replaying conversations or reminding us of work left undone. Studies suggest this happens because unresolved activities create mild psychological tension, while completing a task releases it. That's why writing a to-do list can feel unexpectedly calming. It signals to the brain that the task is acknowledged, even if it's not yet complete. In daily life, this effect can act as both a motivator and a source of stress, depending on how we manage it. Either way, it's a powerful example of the mind's tendency to cling to unfinished business. Gratitude can lower stress hormones in your body. Feeling and expressing gratitude is more than a polite habit. It can alter the body's chemistry. Studies show that people who regularly focus on what they're thankful for tend to have lower levels of cortisol, the hormone associated with stress. Practices such as keeping a gratitude journal or reflecting on positive moments before sleep can also increase activity in brain regions linked to empathy and joy. This isn't just a shift in mood. It's a physiological response that can strengthen the immune system, improve sleep quality, and support heart health. Psychologists suggest gratitude redirects attention away from what is missing and toward what is present, creating a sense of safety and connection. In this way, it helps calm the mind and allows the body to follow. A single grateful thought held quietly can ripple through the nervous system like a gentle, calming tide. People can be influenced by words they barely perceive. Sometimes the mind responds to messages it doesn't consciously register. In psychology, this is known as subliminal priming. It refers to stimuli presented so briefly or subtly that they fall below conscious awareness. yet still influence thoughts or behavior. In one study, flashing positive or negative words for mere milliseconds before showing a neutral image changed how participants rated the emotional tone of that image. Advertisers and artists have long been fascinated by this phenomenon, although its real-world effects are more subtle than popular myths suggest. Still, it reveals an important truth. Our conscious minds are not the only gatekeepers of perception. Beneath awareness, the brain is constantly scanning, filtering, and interpreting signals. Most of these impressions never rise into words, yet they can subtly influence our decisions, shape our judgments, and leave us with feelings we can't quite explain. These are whispers from the edge of perception. Music can awaken memories hidden for decades. A song from your teenage years can instantly pull you back to a school hallway, a summer afternoon, or a person you haven't spoken to in years. Music has a unique relationship with memory because it activates multiple regions of the brain at once: auditory areas, motor regions, and most importantly, the limbic system. Rhythm, melody, and lyrics weave together into a rich emotional context. When that song plays again, the emotions tied to it return as well. For people with Alzheimer's disease, familiar music can sometimes spark moments of clarity, allowing them to sing lyrics they otherwise couldn't recall. Psychologists believe music acts as a powerful retrieval cue, bypassing some of the barriers created by time and memory loss. It reminds us that even when memories seem gone, they may still live within us, waiting for the right sound to release them. Optimism can support recovery from illness. Hope and positive expectation are not only comforting, they can be biologically protective. Research shows that optimistic individuals often recover more quickly from surgery, respond better to certain treatments, and experience lower rates of some chronic conditions. Optimism appears to reduce harmful stress responses, encourage healthier behaviors, and even strengthen immune function. This doesn't mean denying reality or forcing cheerfulness through hardship. Instead, it reflects an expectation that challenges can be overcome and that the future still holds possibility. Psychologists suggest optimism helps people stick with rehabilitation, follow medical guidance more consistently, and maintain the mental resilience required for healing. While the body quietly repairs itself, the mind's outlook can tilt the odds, turning hope into an invisible medicine moving through every breath and heartbeat. People remember gossip more than neutral information. Humans evolved in small social groups where knowing who could be trusted often meant the difference between safety and danger. This may explain why the brain is especially tuned to remember gossip, stories about others' behavior, more readily than neutral facts. In experiments, participants recall details about untrustworthy actions more easily than physical descriptions or unrelated events. Gossip activates social reasoning networks in the brain, drawing attention and helping store information for future use. While gossip can be harmful, it may also serve a protective role by helping groups maintain norms and avoid risk. In modern life, this tendency appears in how rumors spread faster than ordinary news. Whether whispered around a fire long ago or shared online today, gossip's staying power reflects the brain's deep interest in social behavior. Déjà vu may result from a brief misfire in the brain's recognition systems. That strange feeling that you've experienced a moment before remains only partly understood. One leading theory suggests it occurs when recognition processes activate incorrectly, creating a false sense of familiarity. This can happen when a new experience closely resembles stored memory patterns, even if the original moment can't be recalled. Neuroimaging studies point to the temporal lobe, especially regions involved in memory. For most people, déjà vu is brief and harmless, yet it offers insight into how the brain blends past and present. In that fleeting instant, reality seems doubled, the present layered with the echo of a past that may never have existed. It reminds us that perception is interpretation, not a perfect record, and sometimes the mind's storyteller runs ahead of the facts. People often speak faster when they feel nervous. As anxiety rises, speech speed can increase. This is partly driven by the body's fight or flight response, which raises heart rate and breathing. The brain, primed for quick action, pushes thoughts forward rapidly, while the mouth struggles to keep up. Nervous speakers may rush sentences, skip pauses, or stumble over words as adrenaline fuels urgency. This effect can be subtle or pronounced, with words blurring together. In social settings, rapid speech can even spread tension as emotional states ripple through groups. Recognizing this pattern can be useful. Deliberately slowing speech can calm the body, and a calmer body can steady the mind. In this way, speech becomes not just a mirror of mood, but a tool for shaping it. Much of the human brain remains a mystery. Despite advances in neuroscience, large portions of the brain are still only partly understood. Scientists can map structures, track electrical signals, and observe activity patterns. Yet the deeper questions, how consciousness arises or why memories feel vivid, remain unanswered. Some regions have no clearly defined function, and the networks connecting them are more complex than any machine humans have built. Each discovery brings new questions, reminding us how little we've explored of this inner universe. Like an ocean whose surface we've skimmed while its depths remain dark, the brain holds entire continents of understanding yet to be found. In quiet moments between thoughts, we're reminded that the mind is not only a biological system, but a mystery we live within every day. Most of your thoughts repeat from the day before. Research suggests that a large portion of daily thoughts are recycled from previous days. Familiar concerns, routines, and reflections replayed in slightly altered forms. This repetition helps create stability, but it can also limit creativity and reinforce old patterns. The brain favors efficiency, and reusing existing neural pathways requires less effort than forming new ones. However, when we seek novelty, challenge assumptions, or change our environment, new patterns of thought can emerge. This is why travel, learning new skills, or even taking a different route can feel refreshing. It pulls the mind out of autopilot and into awareness. Most of the time, thoughts follow well-worn paths, but occasionally we step off them and discover something entirely new within ourselves. Yawning can be contagious, even across species. A single yawn can spread through a room without a word spoken. This effect isn't limited to humans. Chimpanzees, dogs, and even some birds have been observed catching yawns from others. Psychologists believe this phenomenon is linked to empathy and social bonding. We unconsciously mirror those around us, reinforcing connection. In humans, yawns are more contagious among people who share close bonds. You're more likely to yawn after a friend than a stranger, while yawning helps regulate brain temperature and alertness. Its social spread seems to serve another role, subtly synchronizing group rhythms. A shared yawn becomes a quiet signal of connection, a reminder that we're sharing the same moment. Hypnosis can alter how the brain processes pain. Under hypnosis, some people experience reduced pain or none at all during situations that would normally be uncomfortable. Brain imaging shows that hypnosis can change activity in regions that interpret pain signals, altering not the sensation itself, but how it's perceived. This approach has been used in medical contexts, including dentistry and surgery, though it doesn't work equally for everyone. Psychologists describe hypnosis as a focused, highly receptive mental state in which perception becomes flexible. The effect isn't magic. It's the brain adapting its responses. By shifting attention, the mind can reshape bodily experience. This highlights a deeper truth. Pain is not only physical, but a dialogue between nerves, brain, and awareness. And sometimes, awareness can change the conversation. Writing about your feelings can improve health. Translating emotions into words, whether in a journal or private notes, has measurable benefits. Studies show expressive writing can lower blood pressure, strengthen immune function, and improve mood. Psychologists believe the process helps organize emotional experiences, turning vague sensations into structured thoughts the brain can process. This reduces mental strain and frees cognitive resources for other tasks. Writing doesn't require perfect grammar or polished style. Its strength lies in honesty. By translating inner experiences into words, we give shape to what was once formless, and in doing so, we lessen its grip on us. The page becomes a safe container for thoughts and emotions that may feel overwhelming inside the mind. Over time, this practice can help untangle complex feelings, making them easier to understand and easier to carry. We tend to remember feelings more easily than facts. The human mind is deeply emotional, and this strongly shapes memory. Experiences linked to intense emotions, joy, fear, grief, or excitement, tend to remain longer than neutral details. This emotional tagging helps the brain prioritize what feels important. At the same time, it means we often recall how something felt more clearly than what actually happened. In eyewitness testimony, for example, emotional intensity can influence memory, sometimes distorting factual accuracy. On the positive side, remembering the emotions of meaningful moments can reinforce values, relationships, and life lessons. Our memories are not exact recordings. They are stories told from the heart's perspective. When we look back, we often move through a landscape of feelings, with facts scattered like stones along the path. Chewing gum can improve concentration. It may seem like a trivial habit, but chewing gum has been linked to increases in focus and alertness. The rhythmic motion appears to boost blood flow to the brain, while chewing itself may stimulate areas related to attention and memory. Some studies show modest improvements in tasks requiring sustained focus, particularly when participants chew peppermint-flavored gum. The effect isn't dramatic, but it can provide a subtle lift in mental energy. This may explain why students, drivers, and even soldiers use it during long, demanding periods. Psychologists also suggest that chewing gum can reduce stress by lowering cortisol levels, offering a double benefit for concentration. In moments when attention starts to drift, this simple action can act as a small anchor, gently bringing the mind back to the task. The first and last things you learn tend to stick the strongest. Memory is influenced by what psychologists call the primacy and recency effects. the tendency to remember the beginning and end of a sequence better than the middle. Early items receive more attention and rehearsal, while the most recent items remain fresh in short-term memory. This pattern appears throughout daily life. We often recall the opening and closing moments of a conversation, a lecture, or a trip more vividly than what came in between. Understanding this can support learning. Placing key information at the start or end of a study session increases the chance it will be remembered. In many ways, the mind frames experiences like stories, with the opening and final scenes glowing the brightest. The middle still matters, but it's the beginning and the ending that often linger longest in memory. Your brain can miss changes happening right in front of you. Change blindness is a striking feature of perception. The brain can fail to notice even major alterations in a scene if they occur during a brief distraction or visual interruption. In experiments, people may look directly at an object, glance away, and then fail to notice it has completely changed when they look back. This happens because attention is selective. We cannot process every detail, so the brain fills gaps with assumptions based on prior knowledge. In everyday life, change blindness explains why we miss small rearrangements in a room or fail to notice a friend's new haircut. It reminds us that perception is not a perfect camera. Instead, it is a patchwork of focused details and inferred continuity stitched together so smoothly that we rarely notice what's missing unless it's pointed out. Smiling can trick your brain into feeling happier. Even when joy isn't present, the simple act of smiling can subtly shift mood. Psychologists refer to this as the facial feedback hypothesis, the idea that facial expressions can influence emotional states. When you smile, facial muscles send signals to the brain, triggering the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. This can create a small lift in mood, even if circumstances remain unchanged. The effect works in reverse as well. Frowning or scowling can reinforce tension or frustration. It's not a cure, but in moments of stress, a deliberate smile can gently nudge the body toward calm. This is why some meditation practices include a soft, almost imperceptible smile. It's a reminder that mind and body are deeply connected, and sometimes happiness can begin with a simple, physical gesture. Your subconscious can influence who you find attractive. Attraction often feels conscious, but many of its roots lie beneath awareness. Subtle cues, facial symmetry, tone of voice, even scent can trigger responses shaped by biology and experience. Evolutionary psychologists suggest some preferences relate to health signals, while others are formed through culture and personal history. The subconscious also weaves in associations. A laugh may echo someone kind from the past. A hairstyle may resemble a beloved figure. These impressions form before conscious analysis begins, creating the sensation of instant chemistry. Attraction is both ancient and deeply personal, a dance between instincts refined over millennia and the unique paths shaped by our own lives, quietly guiding attention and feeling before we realize a choice has been made. Flow states can make hours feel like minutes. A flow state is a mental condition where focus feels effortless, time becomes elastic, and the outside world fades away. Artists, athletes, and scientists often describe becoming absorbed in their work, emerging hours later energized rather than drained. Psychologists explain that flow occurs when a task's challenge matches skill level, demanding enough to engage fully, but not so difficult as to overwhelm. During flow, activity in the prefrontal cortex linked to self-consciousness decreases, allowing attention to merge with action. Flow is not just peak productivity. It's a deeply satisfying immersion where awareness and movement become one. Many people find it through creative work, hobbies, or problem solving. In this quiet trance, minutes dissolve, and the mind moves smoothly, like a river finding its way to the sea. People can develop new senses with technology. Technology can extend perception beyond natural limits, effectively granting new senses. Some researchers have designed devices that translate non-visual information, such as magnetic fields or ultrasonic distances, into tactile signals the brain can learn to interpret. Over time, users begin to experience these signals as naturally as sight or touch, integrating them into awareness. For example, a belt that vibrates when facing north can eventually create an intuitive sense of direction, similar to migratory animals. These developments highlight neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt to new streams of information. Though still experimental, such tools point toward a future where human perception may expand to include ultraviolet light, infrared heat, or even chemical changes in the air, opening dimensions of experience we can barely imagine. Learning something new physically reshapes your brain. Each time a new skill or concept is learned, neural networks change. This process, known as synaptic plasticity, strengthens existing connections and forms new ones, allowing information to be stored and accessed more efficiently. The brain is not fixed. It is a living structure shaped by experience. Brain imaging shows that learning activities, from playing music to practicing a language, can increase the size of certain regions over time. These changes happen most rapidly in childhood, but continue throughout life, proving it is never too late to learn. Learning is like walking across a field until a faint trail becomes a clear path. Each return deepens the route, expanding the landscape of the mind, one connection at a time. Your mood can literally change what you see. Emotions don't just color thoughts, they can alter visual perception. Studies show that people in positive moods notice more details and perceive a wider range of colors, while anxiety narrows attention toward potential threats. This happens because mood influences attention systems, shaping how sensory information is filtered. Joy can make a sunset appear more vivid, while fear can make a street seem darker than it is. Perception is not purely objective. It is shaped by the mind state in each moment. Shifting mood can quite literally shift the world we experience, revealing how fluid the boundary is between inner state and outer reality. People are more likely to help when they are the only witness. In emergencies, the presence of others can sometimes reduce the likelihood that anyone intervenes, a phenomenon known as the bystander effect. When alone, individuals feel greater responsibility to act. In groups, responsibility diffuses, and each person assumes someone else will help. This pattern has been observed repeatedly, from staged accidents to everyday situations. The larger the crowd, the lower the chance of intervention. Awareness of the bystander effect can counteract it. People who recognize it are more likely to take action regardless of others. In moments when help is needed, waiting for someone else can be a trap. Sometimes the person who must act is simply you. Even the scent of stress can influence how others react. When a person is stressed, the body can release chemical compounds through sweat that carry subtle signals to those nearby. Research has found that smelling these stress odors, even without conscious awareness, can activate brain areas linked to empathy and fear, making others feel more alert or anxious as well. This suggests that stress can spread socially, not only through tone of voice or facial expression, but through scent. While this effect likely evolved to help groups detect and respond to danger, in modern life, it means tension in a room can quietly ripple from one person to the next. Understanding this can be empowering. Just as stress can be contagious, calm can be contagious too. By managing our own state, we may shape the emotional climate around us in ways no one can fully explain, but everyone can feel. Nostalgia can make you feel warmer physically. Nostalgia isn't only warmth in the heart, it can literally make the body feel warmer. Experiments show that recalling cherished memories can raise perceived temperature and even reduce the feeling of physical cold. Psychologists think this connection may come from evolutionary needs. Social warmth and physical warmth are intertwined in the brain, both tied to safety and belonging. When we return to happy moments from the past, the body responds as if we've stepped into a more comfortable environment. In winter months, people often have more nostalgic thoughts, perhaps to counter the chill. Whether sparked by a familiar song, a photograph, or the smell of a favorite meal, nostalgia can wrap mind and body in a gentle blanket of remembered comfort. Fear can be transmitted through observation alone. You don't have to face a threat firsthand to feel fear. Simply watching someone else react with fear can trigger your own response. This is because the brain contains mirror systems that simulate others' emotions, helping us learn about danger indirectly. In studies, people who observe someone showing fear toward a specific object later showed similar fear reactions themselves, even without direct exposure. This likely evolved to help us avoid harm by learning from others' experiences. In everyday life, it means fear can surge through groups in seconds, shaping behavior before words are spoken. Just as calm can spread, alarm can spread too, making emotional awareness a powerful tool in shaping the mood around us. Authority figures can make ordinary people obey extreme orders. In the 1960s, psychologist Stanley Milgram conducted experiments showing that ordinary people, under the direction of an authority figure, would deliver what they believed were painful electric shocks to others. The study revealed how social pressure and authority can override personal morals, leading people to act in ways they might never choose on their own. Though controversial, the findings have echoed in other settings, from the military to workplace hierarchies. The effect is rooted in our tendency to trust perceived experts and to shift responsibility when following orders. This doesn't mean people are powerless. Awareness of the influence can strengthen resistance. It's a reminder that moral courage sometimes means stepping out of authority's shadow and reclaiming personal choice, even when every voice around you says, just do as you're told. Peripheral vision detects motion faster than central vision. Your eyes see the most detail in the center, but they detect movement fastest at the edges. Peripheral vision is tuned to motion, a survival trait from when noticing a sudden rustle could mean spotting prey or a predator. This sensitivity is tied to rod cells in the outer retina, which are better at picking up light and movement in low contrast conditions. In modern life, it means you may notice something shifting in the corner of your eye before you consciously look at it. It's part of the brain's early warning system, constantly scanning for change and ready to pull your focus where it's needed. In the quiet margins of your sight, the past still lingers, an ancient watchtower keeping guard. Writing by hand can improve memory more than typing. Handwriting engages the brain differently than typing, involving fine motor control, visual processing, and spatial awareness at the same time. This richer sensory experience helps encode information more deeply, making it easier to recall later. Students who take handwritten notes often remember concepts better, even if they write less overall, because summarizing in real time requires active engagement with the material. Writing by hand also slows you down, giving the mind more time to process ideas. Typing is fast and efficient, but handwriting can act like a kind of mindful learning. Each stroke is a physical imprint of thought, etched not only on paper, but into the neural patterns of memory. Smiling can trick your brain into feeling happier, even without real joy. Forming a smile can nudge the brain toward a lighter mood. This happens because facial muscles send feedback signals to the brain, influencing emotional processing. Studies show that people who hold a pen between their teeth to mimic a smile report more amusement when viewing cartoons than those who frown. The effect isn't about faking happiness. It's about creating a small physical cue the brain reads as a sign of safety and positivity. Over time, this gentle feedback loop can become a quiet tool for shifting perspective, especially on days that feel heavy. We judge faces in less than 1/10 of a second. The brain forms impressions of faces almost instantly, in less than 1/10 of a second. Research shows that even this brief glance is enough for people to decide whether someone seems trustworthy, competent, or likable. These snap judgments come from ancient survival systems, where quickly assessing friend or foe could mean life or death. The amygdala and other brain regions process facial cues at remarkable speed, long before conscious thought can step in. While first impressions can be surprisingly consistent, they aren't always accurate. The mind often leans on learned stereotypes and personal experience to fill the gaps. This lightning-fast assessment reminds us that part of us still runs on instincts formed long before cities, screens, and introductions. When a single look could shape survival, seeing eyes in a room can make people more honest. Simply placing an image of eyes in a space, above a donation box for instance, can make people act more generously and honestly. Psychologists think this happens because the feeling of being watched triggers social accountability, even when the eyes are only printed on paper. This links back to our evolutionary past, when reputation and group belonging were crucial for survival. Being seen meant actions mattered, and the brain still responds to these subtle cues today. Interestingly, the eyes don't need to be realistic. Even stylized designs can produce the effect. It's a quiet example of how deep social instincts still shape behavior, turning a simple image into an invisible reminder that someone might be watching. People often overestimate how much others notice them. The spotlight effect describes our tendency to believe others pay more attention to us than they actually do. This can make small mistakes, tripping on a sidewalk, mispronouncing a word, feel far more obvious than they are. In reality, most people are too focused on their own thoughts to watch us closely. This bias comes from how we experience life. We're the main character in our own story, so we assume others focus on us too. Understanding the spotlight effect can be freeing, easing social anxiety and self-consciousness. When we realize most eyes are turned inward, our stumbles lose their weight, and we move through the world with a lighter step, no longer imagining an audience where none exists. The placebo effect can work even when you know it's a placebo. It sounds impossible, but studies show that a placebo, an inactive treatment, can still create real effects even when the person knows it isn't real medicine. In these cases, simply explaining that a placebo might trigger the body's own healing mechanisms can be enough to produce measurable changes, such as reduced pain or improved mood. Psychologists suggest this works through expectation and conditioning. The ritual of treatment, combined with belief in the body's ability to heal, activates brain pathways that influence physical states. This open-label placebo effect shows how tightly mind and body are intertwined, and how belief can shape biology even without deception. It's a reminder that sometimes awareness itself can become a kind of medicine. People often recall emotions better than details. Think back to an important moment. You may remember the rush of joy, the weight of grief, or the sting of embarrassment, but not the exact sequence of events. That's because emotions are processed and stored in brain areas closely tied to memory, such as the amygdala, making them easier to retrieve than factual details. This emotional focus can guide future choices, but it can also blur accuracy. We may remember the feeling of a day and lose the specifics. That's why two people can share an experience and still remember it differently. In the story of our lives, emotion is often the ink, and details are the paper. Without feeling, memory fades. With it, even faint outlines can stay vivid for years. Forgetting can be as important as remembering. Forgetting may feel like a flaw, but it's essential to how memory works. The brain takes in enormous amounts of information, and letting go of less useful details makes room for what matters. Psychologists believe forgetting helps us generalize from experience instead of getting trapped in specifics. It also prevents outdated information from interfering with new learning. This adaptive forgetting is like pruning a tree, removing old branches so healthier ones can grow. Far from weakness, the ability to forget is one way the mind stays efficient and focused, ensuring the memories we keep are the ones most relevant to the present and the future. Your brain can adapt to seeing the world upside down. In classic experiments, people wore special glasses that inverted their vision, flipping the world upside down. At first, the experience was deeply disorienting, but within days, the brain adjusted. Objects began to feel upright again, even though the image entering the eyes remained reversed. This remarkable flexibility is a clear example of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself in response to new input. When the glasses were removed, vision felt inverted once more until the brain readapted. This finding shows that perception is not a fixed recording, but an active construction, constantly shaped by the brain's interpretation of sensory information. Even something as basic as up and down is partly a matter of adaptation. Group decisions can be riskier than individual ones. In certain situations, groups tend to make bolder, riskier choices than individuals would make alone, a phenomenon known as group polarization. This can occur because discussion often amplifies dominant opinions, while shared enthusiasm can downplay potential dangers. The effect appears in settings ranging from business meetings to political rallies. While collective decision-making can draw on diverse viewpoints, it can also lead to a risky shift where the desire for unity and momentum outweighs caution. Awareness of this tendency allows groups to counterbalance it by inviting dissenting opinions and intentional pauses. In the end, the group mind is a powerful tool, but like any tool, it requires careful use. Optical illusions reveal how reality is rebuilt inside your mind. Optical illusions work because the brain does more than receive sensory input. It interprets that input, filling in gaps and generating predictions. When those predictions clash with raw data, the result can be images that seem to move, shift, or conceal details that are clearly present. Illusions expose the shortcuts the brain uses to understand the world quickly. These shortcuts usually help us function efficiently, but they also remind us that what we see is a version of reality reconstructed inside our minds, not reality itself. Every perception is, in a sense, a personalized rendering shaped by past experience, expectation, and context. Laughter can rewire your brain for resilience. Laughter is not just a reaction. It acts as a form of mental exercise that can build resilience. When we laugh, the brain releases endorphins and reduces stress hormones, creating a physiological state that makes coping with challenges easier. Shared laughter strengthens social bonds, providing support that becomes especially important in difficult times. Over time, these joyful moments can function like repeated training sessions for the nervous system, teaching it to recover from stress more quickly. In this way, laughter becomes more than a fleeting pleasure. It becomes a resource stored in the body and mind, ready to be drawn upon when life demands courage. A sense of purpose can extend lifespan. Research shows that people who feel a strong sense of purpose, a clear reason to rise each morning, often live longer and healthier lives. Purpose provides motivation that encourages healthier habits, lowers stress, and strengthens social ties. It also appears to benefit the body directly, with studies linking purpose to reduced inflammation and improved cardiovascular health. Purpose does not need to be grand or world-changing. It can be deeply personal, such as caring for loved ones, creating something meaningful, or contributing to a community. Having something to work toward acts like a compass for the mind, guiding decisions and sustaining resilience. During hardship, purpose can become a steady light on the horizon, encouraging forward movement one step at a time. Your brain has a dedicated face recognition network. Deep within the temporal lobe lies the fusiform face area, a specialized region devoted to recognizing faces. This system is so finely tuned that it can identify familiar faces in less than a second, even within a crowd. Damage to this area can lead to prosopagnosia, or face blindness, a condition in which individuals can see facial features, but struggle to recognize even close friends or family. The importance of this network is rooted in evolution. Reading faces has long been essential for detecting emotions, recognizing allies, and forming social bonds. Remarkably, this system can also adapt to recognize other familiar patterns, such as a pet's markings or the shape of a well-known object. It reflects the brain's deep investment in connection and recognition. Meditation can physically alter brain structures. Meditation is more than a mental practice. Long-term engagement can physically change the brain. MRI studies show increased thickness in the prefrontal cortex, an area linked to decision-making and self-control, as well as changes in the hippocampus, which supports memory and learning. Regular meditation can also reduce the size of the amygdala, the brain's center for fear and stress responses, suggesting an enhanced capacity for calm. These structural shifts reflect neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through experience. Even brief daily sessions can begin reshaping neural patterns, improving attention, emotional regulation, and overall well-being. In a fast and noisy world, meditation offers a way to reshape the mind from within, building stillness into the brain itself. People can experience an out-of-body perspective in certain situations. During near-death experiences, deep meditation, or targeted brain stimulation, some people report the sensation of leaving their bodies and observing themselves from above or from a distance. Neuroscientists link these experiences to disruptions in how the brain integrates sensory information, particularly in the temporoparietal junction. Though often brief, these moments can feel vivid and profoundly real, leaving lasting impressions. Out-of-body experiences can alter a person's sense of identity and deepen existential curiosity. Whether viewed as spiritual or neurological, they highlight the brain's role in constructing the sense of self, a sense that under certain conditions can loosen and drift beyond the physical body. Priming can change behavior without you noticing. Priming occurs when exposure to specific words, images, or ideas subtly influences later behavior. Reading words associated with politeness, for instance, can make people interrupt less, while references to aging may slow walking speed, all without conscious awareness. This happens because the brain uses recently activated concepts as shortcuts, shaping perception and response. Although priming effects are often short-lived, they reveal how sensitive we are to environmental cues. In everyday life, priming can inspire productivity, kindness, or creativity, but it also shows how easily behavior can be nudged without awareness. Every environment quietly sets the stage for how we think and act. Kindness can boost your immune system. Acts of kindness do more than help others. They can support your health as well. Helping behavior has been linked to lower blood pressure, reduced stress hormones, and stronger immune function. Psychologists suggest this is partly due to the release of oxytocin, which promotes trust and warmth while supporting cardiovascular health. Even small gestures, such as offering a smile or holding a door, can produce these effects. Over time, kindness can become a self-reinforcing cycle. Helping others increases well-being, which encourages further generosity. In this way, kindness is not only social glue, but also a quiet form of self-care woven into daily interactions. Your posture can influence your mood. The way you hold your body shapes how you feel. Sitting or standing upright can increase alertness and confidence, while slouching may reinforce fatigue or low mood. This connection works through feedback loops between body and brain. Posture affects hormone levels, breathing patterns, and neural activity. Some studies suggest that adopting expansive postures can increase feelings of control, though results vary. Beyond confidence, posture also influences energy by opening or restricting the chest and diaphragm. Small adjustments, sitting tall, relaxing the shoulders, lifting the head, can subtly guide the mind toward clarity and presence. In many ways, the body sets the stage for the story the mind tells itself. Trauma can sometimes lead to personal growth. Although trauma can cause deep suffering, some people emerge with increased resilience, empathy, or a renewed sense of purpose. a process known as post-traumatic growth. This does not mean trauma itself is beneficial, but that recovery can sometimes foster strengths that might not have developed otherwise. Psychologists have identified forms of growth such as stronger relationships, greater appreciation for life, and deeper alignment with personal values. The process often involves meaning-making, finding ways to weave the experience into a broader story of life. While not everyone goes through post-traumatic growth, those who do often describe it as a transformation shaped by hardship, like a tree becoming stronger after enduring a storm. Stress can spread between people without words. Stress is contagious and can pass silently from one person to another. Simply noticing someone's tense posture, facial expressions, or shifts in their voice can trigger a mirrored stress response in the observer's brain. This social transmission of stress is believed to be rooted in empathy, as our nervous systems naturally tune into the states of those around us. While this sensitivity can help groups respond to danger together, it also means that one person's anxiety can ripple outward and influence the atmosphere of an entire room. The opposite is also true. Calmness can spread in a similar way, easing tension and encouraging steadiness. In this sense, managing our own stress is not only self-care, but a quiet gift to others. We are more likely to help when we are the only witness. When we are alone and see someone who needs help, we tend to act more quickly. There is no one else to shift responsibility onto. This contrasts with the bystander effect that can arise in groups where people hesitate, assuming someone else will intervene. Being the sole witness removes that hesitation and places the choice directly in our hands. In these moments, the urge to help often feels immediate and personal. Psychologists suggest this reflects an ancient survival pattern. In small communities, every individual's action mattered. Today, it serves as a reminder that small, immediate responses can have a powerful impact, especially when no one else is there to take the first step. Mirroring someone's movements can build instant rapport. Subtly matching another person's gestures, posture, or speech patterns can create a sense of connection and trust. This unconscious tendency, known as the chameleon effect, is part of our social wiring. When it happens naturally, mirroring communicates empathy and attentiveness, helping the other person feel understood. This is why conversations can fall into rhythm, or why friends may find themselves laughing or leaning in at the same time. In professional contexts, skilled negotiators may use mirroring to encourage cooperation, while therapists use it to strengthen rapport. When exaggerated or forced, however, it can feel artificial. At its core, mirroring is the body's quiet way of saying, "I'm with you," an unspoken alignment of two nervous systems moving together like dancers following the same music. Learning something new physically changes your brain. Every skill acquired, from trying a new recipe to mastering a musical instrument, reshapes neural connections. This process, known as neuroplasticity, allows the brain to adapt to experience throughout life. New learning strengthens existing synaptic pathways and can even form entirely new ones, much like creating fresh trails in a forest. MRI studies show that activities such as juggling, language learning, and complex problem solving can lead to measurable growth in specific brain regions. These changes develop gradually, accumulating with practice and becoming part of the brain's living structure. The beauty of neuroplasticity is that it operates at any age. Although it may slow over time, the capacity for growth never fully disappears. Every new skill leaves a physical trace, a quiet mark etched into the brain's evolving map. Changing your study location can boost retention. Studying in different environments can help information settle more firmly into memory. This happens because each location provides unique cues that the brain unconsciously links with what is being learned. When recalling the material later, there is a richer network of associations to draw upon. Alternating between places such as a quiet room, a park bench, or a library introduces subtle changes in light, sound, and scent, all of which act as retrieval cues. Psychologists suggest this approach can be especially helpful when preparing for exams or presentations. The same principle applies beyond studying. Practicing a skill in varied settings can improve flexibility and performance. By gently breaking routine, you give the brain more threads to weave into memory, creating a pattern that is harder to unravel. Teaching others strengthens your own understanding. Explaining a concept to someone else requires organizing thoughts, choosing clear language, and anticipating questions, all of which deepen comprehension. This is sometimes called the protégé effect, and it explains why teachers often say they learn as much as they teach. Teaching forces active retrieval and reconstruction of knowledge, reinforcing the neural pathways that store it. Even preparing to teach can improve retention, as the brain engages with information in a more structured and purposeful way. This works for skills as well as facts. Showing a friend how to cook a dish, for instance, reinforces your own muscle memory. Teaching transforms knowledge from something you possess into something you live, making it a more permanent part of the mind's library. Some fears are inherited through evolution. Certain fears, such as fear of snakes, spiders, or heights, appear more easily in humans and other primates, even without direct negative experience. Psychologists and evolutionary biologists believe these fears are biologically prepared, giving our ancestors an advantage in avoiding danger. Studies show that people develop fear responses to these stimuli more quickly than to neutral objects like flowers or houses. Although modern life has reduced many of these threats, the underlying predisposition remains. This evolutionary inheritance means emotional reactions are shaped not only by personal history, but also by long patterns of survival encoded in the nervous system. In some cases, our instincts are echoes from a past where a moment of caution could mean the difference between life and death. Multitasking reduces the quality of your memory. Switching between tasks may feel productive, but it often weakens memory accuracy. When attention is divided, the brain cannot fully encode the details of each activity, leading to poorer recall. Multitasking also increases the risk of source confusion, where information is remembered but its origin is forgotten. Over time, habitual multitasking can train the brain to favor breadth over depth, making sustained focus more difficult. Psychologists recommend monotasking, dedicating time to one task at a time for stronger learning and retention. Although modern environments encourage constant switching, the mind performs best when it can dwell deeply on a single thread, securing it firmly in memory. Your sense of time can stretch or collapse in different situations. Time perception is fluid, shaped by attention, emotion, and novelty. Moments of danger or intense focus can feel longer because the brain records more sensory detail per second. In contrast, familiar routines may seem to disappear quickly, with hours passing in what feels like minutes. This helps explain why childhood often feels expansive, filled with new experiences, while adulthood can seem faster as novelty decreases. Psychologists suggest that deliberately seeking new activities can slow the perceived passage of time, enriching daily life. In this way, time behaves less like a clock and more like an accordion, expanding and contracting with the rhythm of experience. Some memories can be erased with targeted disruption. Researchers have discovered ways to weaken or even erase specific memories in animals by interfering with reconsolidation, the process that occurs when a memory is recalled and then stored again. Although still largely experimental in humans, this approach has been explored as a possible treatment for traumatic memories. By disrupting chemical pathways during reconsolidation, scientists can reduce the vividness or emotional intensity of certain memories. This possibility raises both hope and ethical questions. Could removing pain also remove meaningful parts of identity? For now, the research reminds us that memory is not a fixed recording, but a living construct that can, under certain conditions, be altered. Your brain can generate false memories that feel completely real. False memories are not simply vague impressions. They can feel as vivid and detailed as genuine recollections. Studies show that suggestion, imagination, and even photographs can lead people to remember events that never occurred. Each time a memory is recalled, the brain reconstructs it, allowing subtle changes to creep in over time. This flexibility is usually helpful, letting memories adapt, but it also leaves them open to distortion. In some cases, people may confidently remember entire scenes that are entirely fabricated, complete with emotion and sensory detail. This reminds us that memory is not a perfect archive. It is a story the mind tells, and like any story, it can change with each retelling. Your brain can hallucinate gaps in your vision without you knowing. Everyone has a blind spot where the optic nerve meets the retina, yet we rarely notice it. This is because the brain automatically fills in missing information using surrounding patterns and context. This process happens constantly, not only at the blind spot, smoothing over gaps caused by blinking, shadows, or brief obstructions. Most of the time, the result feels seamless, but it means that what we see is partly constructed rather than directly captured. In this sense, the brain acts like an editor, presenting a polished version of reality instead of raw footage. We live in an image shaped as much by interpretation as by light. Hearing your own name activates a unique brain response. Your name functions like a personal alert signal for the brain. Even in a crowded, noisy environment, hearing it can cut through background sound and immediately capture attention. This is known as the cocktail party effect. Brain imaging shows that hearing your own name activates the medial prefrontal cortex, an area linked to self-awareness. The response is automatic and often emotional, as names are closely tied to identity and social connection. This sensitivity likely evolved because recognizing when someone was addressing you could signal safety, opportunity, or important information. Even when spoken softly from afar, your name can pull you back into the present, like a thin thread reconnecting you to the world around you. People can form biases without realizing it. Biases are not always conscious or intentional. The brain's tendency to categorize information quickly can create implicit biases, automatic preferences, or associations that operate below awareness. These can influence decisions, perceptions, and interactions even in people who value fairness. Implicit bias research shows that such associations can be surprisingly persistent. Awareness, however, is the first step toward reducing their influence. By slowing decisions, seeking diverse perspectives, and questioning instinctive reactions, we can begin to challenge these hidden patterns. The process may not eliminate bias completely, but it can weaken its grip, allowing behavior to align more closely with conscious values. It is like noticing an unseen current beneath the surface. Once you know it is there, you can choose how to move through it. Group pressure can shape opinions without evidence. Humans are deeply social, and opinions can shift simply by observing the views of others. In classic experiments, participants gave obviously incorrect answers to simple questions when everyone else in the group did the same, a phenomenon known as conformity. This pull toward agreement grows stronger when a group appears unanimous or when uncertainty is high. Conformity isn't always negative. It can support cooperation and shared norms, but it can also push us to set aside our own judgment just to match the crowd. Knowing this tendency helps us pause, look at the evidence, and ask whether agreement is sincere or simply the urge to belong. Sometimes the quietest kind of independence is holding to what's true when every voice around you insists otherwise. Sleep can spark insights you couldn't reach while awake. While the body rests, the brain keeps working, sorting memories, linking ideas, and even untangling problems. That's why answers may arrive in dreams, or why a solution feels obvious in the morning after seeming impossible the night before. In certain stages of sleep, the brain is freer to explore unusual connections, less bound by waking logic. Artists, scientists, and inventors have often credited sleep with breakthroughs. This creative problem-solving happens because the sleeping brain blends information in fresh ways, noticing patterns waking awareness might miss. Rest isn't laziness. It's an active state where the mind works quietly in the background, ready to surprise us with sudden clarity when the day begins. Teaching others strengthens your memory. When you teach what you've learned, you use active recall, forcing the brain to retrieve and organize information. That process reinforces memory pathways, making knowledge more lasting. Explaining also exposes gaps in understanding, which pushes deeper learning. Even casual teaching, like telling a friend about a documentary you watched, can strengthen recall. Psychologists call this the protégé effect, and it's why teachers, tutors, and coaches often know their subjects so well. Teaching turns passive knowledge into an active skill, anchoring it more firmly in your mental framework. The more you explain, the more the information becomes part of you. Doodling can help you stay focused. Far from being a sign of distraction, doodling can actually support concentration. In one study, participants who doodled while listening to a dull audio recording remembered more details than those who didn't. Light engagement through doodling may keep the mind from drifting too far, anchoring it to the task. This works because attention has limited capacity. A small, repetitive action can occupy spare mental space without pulling focus away from the main activity. For some people, doodling during lectures or meetings is like holding a gentle tether between wandering thoughts and the information in front of them. In the quiet strokes of a pen, attention finds its rhythm. Smiling can trick your brain into feeling happier. The simple act of smiling, even when it isn't caused by joy, can activate brain pathways that release mood-lifting chemicals like dopamine and serotonin. This is the facial feedback hypothesis at work. Our expressions shape our emotions as much as emotions shape our expressions. In experiments, people asked to hold a pen between their teeth, forcing a smile, reported jokes as funnier than those who frowned. A smile won't erase stress or sadness, but it can create a small upward shift in emotional state, making it easier to face challenges. It's a reminder that body and mind are always in conversation, and sometimes the body speaks first. Taste is shaped more by smell than by your tongue. What we call taste is largely a mix of flavor and aroma. The tongue detects only 5 basic tastes: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. The thousands of subtle flavors we notice come mostly from smell. When you eat with a blocked nose, food often seems dull because those aromatic signals are missing. The brain blends taste and smell into one experience, processing them together in areas tied to memory and emotion. That's why certain flavors can instantly return you to a specific time or place. In every bite, the senses cooperate to create something richer than either could produce alone. Spacing out learning helps you remember longer. Instead of cramming, spreading learning across multiple sessions, known as the spacing effect, improves long-term retention. This works because each review strengthens memory, and time between sessions allows just enough forgetting that retrieval requires effort. That effort reinforces neural pathways and makes the memory more durable. Whether you're learning a language, practicing music, or remembering names, space sessions can make knowledge last months or years rather than days. It's the difference between writing in wet sand and carving into stone. Your brain can make a choice before you realize it. Brain imaging experiments have found neural activity that can predict a decision seconds before a person becomes consciously aware of making it. This suggests that much of what we experience as choice begins in unconscious processes, with consciousness arriving moments later to claim it. That doesn't mean free will is an illusion, but it shows awareness is only one part of a larger decision system. The mind is like a deep ocean. The surface waves of conscious thought are shaped by unseen currents far below. Some minds link sounds to colors automatically. For people with a form of synesthesia, certain sounds can trigger the perception of color. A musical note may appear as a flash of blue, or a spoken word might carry a soft haze of green. These associations are consistent for each person and often show up early in life. Neuroscientists think this blending happens because of stronger connectivity between brain regions that usually process sound and vision separately. Synesthesia is uncommon, but it reveals the brain's flexibility and its ability to build layered experiences from the world around us. For those who have it, music isn't only heard, it's seen, like watching a silent fireworks display with every chord and melody. People remember gossip more than facts. Stories about other people's behavior, whether positive or negative, tend to stick longer than neutral information. This bias may come from evolution, when tracking reputations and alliances was crucial for survival. Knowing who could be trusted, who might be dangerous, and who contributed to the group brought real advantage. Even now, gossip engages the brain's social reasoning networks, making it more memorable. Gossip can be harmful when it's false or cruel, but it can also act as informal social regulation, reinforcing group norms. Its staying power is a reminder of how strongly we're wired for social awareness and how the stories we share can shape the invisible threads between us. Changing your perspective can reduce stress. Reframing a stressful situation, seeing it from a different angle, can lower its emotional weight. Psychologists call this cognitive reappraisal. It works by changing the meaning we give an event. Viewing a challenge as a chance to grow rather than a threat can reduce anxiety and improve problem solving. Brain scans show reappraisal activates the prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate the amygdala, the brain's fear center. This doesn't remove the difficulty, but it creates space between stimulus and reaction, allowing a calmer, more deliberate response. Over time, practicing reappraisal can build resilience, turning stress into a teacher rather than an enemy. People are more creative when they are slightly tired. It seems counterintuitive, but a mildly fatigued brain can sometimes think more creatively than a fully alert one. When we're a little tired, mental filters loosen, letting unusual connections surface. This can help with tasks that require divergent thinking, brainstorming, inventing, or solving problems in unconventional ways. Psychologists suggest relaxed control can free the mind from rigid patterns and open the door to new ideas. Of course, exhaustion harms most kinds of work, but in the sweet spot between wakefulness and fatigue, the mind can wander just far enough to stumble onto unexpected brilliance. That's one reason some people find their most original ideas late at night or early in the morning, when thoughts drift more freely. People adjust opinions to match a group. Group consensus can be a powerful force, often nudging people to adopt positions they might not hold alone. This kind of conformity appears when the desire for social harmony overrides personal judgment. Classic studies show people will agree with a group's wrong answer to an obvious question simply to avoid standing out. Conformity can support cooperation and cohesion, but it can also silence creativity and dissent. Noticing the pull of group opinion helps us pause and ask whether agreement reflects our own beliefs or the group's influence. In a world full of collective voices, the quietest and often most important one to hear is our own. Compliments activate the same brain regions as rewards. Receiving a compliment can light up the brain's reward centers, much like money or a prize. Regions such as the striatum respond to social praise, releasing dopamine and boosting positive feeling. Compliments can also improve performance, as encouragement raises motivation and confidence. That's why positive feedback is so effective in teaching, teamwork, and relationships. The effect doesn't require grand praise. Even small, sincere acknowledgement can trigger this response. At its core, a compliment is both recognition and connection, a way of saying someone is seen and valued in a moment that can echo far beyond the words. Your brain can imagine pain you have never felt. The mind can simulate experience, even sensations we haven't personally endured. Watching someone hurt or reading a vivid description can activate brain areas involved in pain processing. This capacity likely evolved to support empathy, helping us avoid danger and understand others' suffering. Imagined pain isn't as intense as real pain, but the overlap in brain activity can still be strong enough to make us wince at another person's injury. This simulation also means fear and anxiety can arise from expected pain, shaping choices before any real harm occurs. Sleep deprivation blocks new memories from forming. Lack of sleep can seriously weaken the brain's ability to store new information. During deep and REM sleep, the hippocampus consolidates memories, moving them toward long-term storage. Without enough rest, this process is disrupted, and the mind struggles to hold onto details from the day. Even one night of poor sleep can reduce learning and recall. Over time, chronic sleep loss can contribute to more lasting cognitive decline. That's why rest matters not only for health, but also for growth. Without it, the stories of our days fade before they can be written into memory. People often believe information simply because it's repeated. The illusory truth effect is our tendency to accept statements as true when we've heard them many times, even if they're inaccurate. Repetition increases familiarity, and familiarity can feel like truth to the brain. This shortcut helped us learn patterns, but today it can be exploited by misinformation. Knowing this bias helps us slow down and verify claims instead of trusting what sounds familiar. In a loud information world, the mind's comfort with repetition can be both strength and vulnerability. Your brain processes faces in a special way. Faces matter so much to human life that the brain has dedicated systems for recognizing and interpreting them. The fusiform face area in the temporal lobe helps us identify individuals, read emotions, and notice subtle shifts in expression. This system is so fast that we often recognize a face before we remember a name. It's also why we sometimes see faces in clouds or patterns. The brain is primed to find them. This skill reflects our evolutionary past, when reading faces was central to communication and survival. Anticipation often feels better than the event itself. Looking forward to something, a trip, a holiday, a long-awaited meeting, can sometimes feel sweeter than the event. Psychologists call this the anticipation effect. Imagining the future lets the mind build an ideal version, untouched by real-world unpredictability. Anticipation can lift mood, raise motivation, and reduce stress in the days before. When the moment arrives, it may not match the picture we created, but that doesn't erase the value of anticipation. In a sense, anticipation is its own reward, a slow unfolding that stretches happiness across time, letting us enjoy not only what is, but what might be. We judge faces in less than a blink. A quick glance can be enough for the brain to form an impression of a face, sometimes in under 100 milliseconds. This rapid evaluation involves the amygdala and other areas that process social cues, estimate trust, and detect familiarity. These judgments feel intuitive because they bypass deliberate reasoning and show up as gut sense. Snap judgments can help us spot danger or recognize allies, but they can also be shaped by bias. Knowing how fast they form helps us pause, giving slower, more thoughtful impressions time to develop. In a blink, the mind sketches a portrait, but it's only the first draft. Smells can influence your mood without you noticing. The link between scent and emotion is immediate and often unconscious. Odors travel directly to the limbic system, bypassing much of the brain's rational filtering. That means a faint floral scent, a trace of smoke, or fresh bread can shift mood before you realize it. Lavender may calm, while citrus may sharpen alertness. These effects are subtle but real, shaping the emotional background of a moment. In nature, at home, or on a busy street, the air carries invisible signals. The brain turns into feeling, a quiet influence on the mind's weather. Hearing certain sounds can trigger physical reactions. A soft melody may slow breathing, while a sudden loud noise can spike heart rate. Sound is processed not only by hearing centers, but also by regions tied to emotion, memory, and movement. Some frequencies can create tingling sensations, as in ASMR, while others cause discomfort or tension. These reactions belong to an ancient survival system, where responding fast to sound could mean safety. In modern life, they remind us how closely sound is linked to the body's rhythms. Music, voices, and ambient noise can all leave subtle fingerprints on our physical state. Your mind works differently when solving problems alone. Working alone often allows deeper, more reflective thinking, free from other people's influence. This can lead to more original solutions. While solo work lacks the energy and feedback of collaboration, brain activity during solitary problem solving often shows stronger activation in areas tied to introspection and internal imagery. Solitude can support creativity, but it also demands self-discipline to stay focused. Groups can spark energy and idea sharing, but they can also pull people toward conformity. Knowing when to seek solitude and when to collaborate helps you use both strengths. People remember emotionally charged moments more vividly. Emotion acts like a spotlight on memory, sharpening detail and strengthening recall. Joy, fear, grief, or excitement can trigger the amygdala to signal the hippocampus, prioritizing the event for long-term storage. That's why we often remember where we were and how we felt during major life moments, even decades later. Emotion can preserve the central parts of a memory while blurring the edges. The feeling stays sharp, while the exact sequence may soften. These memories become part of life's emotional fabric, moments the heart and mind mark together so they would not be lost. People are more persuasive when they mirror others' movements. Subtle imitation of gestures, posture, and expressions can boost persuasion and rapport. This non-verbal mirroring signals attention and alignment, often without either person noticing it consciously. In negotiations, sales, and even everyday conversation, mirroring can make the listener feel more understood, which increases openness to ideas. The effect works best when it's natural and understated. Obvious imitation can feel manipulative. At its most authentic, mirroring is simply an echo of empathy, a silent conversation between bodies that supports the spoken one. Your brain can rewire itself throughout life. Neuroplasticity lets the brain adapt and change its structure in response to learning, experience, and injury. New connections form between neurons, and existing pathways can strengthen or fade depending on how often they're used. This adaptability is strongest in childhood, but continues into old age, supporting recovery after strokes, adjustment to new skills, and the ability to reshape habits. Every new experience, from meeting someone new to practicing a craft, subtly changes the brain's architecture. In a very real sense, we are sculptors of our own minds. Your sense of time changes under intense emotion. Moments of fear, excitement, or awe can bend time perception. Under stress, the brain takes in more sensory information, making a moment feel longer in hindsight. In contrast, deep joy or focus can make hours seem to disappear in an instant. This flexibility in time perception reflects the brain's adaptive response to important events, helping crucial moments get noticed and remembered. That's why a few seconds in danger can feel like minutes, and why an evening of laughter can vanish in a heartbeat. The mind holds mysteries we have yet to unravel. Despite decades of research, enormous questions remain about how the mind works, from the roots of consciousness to the depths of memory and emotion. Each discovery seems to open new doors, revealing layers of complexity we didn't expect. The mind is not only a set of processes, it's a landscape where thoughts, dreams, and awareness flow together. In exploring it, we aren't just studying biology, we're also tracing the outlines of what it means to be human. For now, many of its secrets remain, inviting us to keep looking inward toward the quiet depths we carry everywhere. And so, our journey through the mind comes to a close. We've wandered through memories and dreams, followed the currents of thought, and paused at the quiet edges of what we know about ourselves. Each fact, each reflection, has been a small light in the vast inner landscape, a reminder that even in stillness, the mind is alive with wonders beyond imagining. Perhaps some of these ideas have stayed with you, or perhaps they've already softened into the haze of rest. That's the beauty of a night of exploring. You don't need to hold on to every detail. The mystery will still be there tomorrow, waiting for you. If you happen to still be awake, you can go ahead and watch the next video. Now, if your eyes feel heavy, you can simply drift, carried by the gentle hum of your own thoughts. Sleep well and good night.